So Adam Cole has set the record straight on Dave Meltzer. Now, there was a time in which Dave Meltzer was considered to be the #1 wrestling journalist in the world. He still kind of is. It genuinely wasn't long ago either. The guy has decades of experience and spent the vast majority of that time being the #1 leaker in the world. He shared more information and more gossip about wrestling than anyone else. And the reason his name has become synonymous with pro wrestling and pro wrestling news is because if there's one thing that wrestling fans love, it's backstage gossip about how shit the WWE is. Lately though, my word, this guy is taking a beating with just how well his reports are actually doing. A report that made the rounds earlier this week was a Meltzer report in which he stated that the plan for Adam Cole's main roster debut, should he sign a new contract with the company, would be to come up as a manager for Keith Lee. The report went far and wide and pissed off a whole load of people. The usual anti-WWE crowd had an absolute field day abusing the company, Vince McMahon, and basically anybody who had ever worked with the company. In addition to this, apparently, it was also completely untrue. Adam Cole has made it clear in an interview that this concept, I believe it's TVInsider, this concept was never pitched to him, and just generally never mentioned by anybody in the company. I've spoken myself about some of the offers that had been made to him at around that time. We were looking at potential world championship runs in every direction. I'm not joking when I say that, had Adam Cole decided to remain with the company, there was every chance that he would have taken the place of either Big E as WWE Champion or Finn Balor challenging Roman Reigns right now. There was every chance of that happening. We've been tracking the big rumour sharers over the last 6 months or so here on Twitch. We've put a lot of spotlight on certain people who have repeatedly gotten things wrong. We've had a good laugh at certain reports. Reports that Elias was going to be treated as one of the top guys on Raw because, with the benefit of hindsight, that sounds ridiculous. We had a good chuckle at the idea that Matt Riddle's push would come with a much more serious character. We literally pointed out incorrect reports from everyone. But some have suffered this far more than others. Some we've only been able to find 1 or 2 reports that turned out to be untrue. With this in mind, I think we're all aware that Dave Meltzer takes a beating on those rumour lookbacks. His reports are hit and miss, and that's me being generous. But for some reason, they're reported everywhere despite this. For some reason, Meltzer has the automatic benefit of the doubt when he is unquestionably the primary instigator in anti-WWE rhetoric. Adam Cole is one of the nicest guys in the world. He was so careful not to be anti-Meltzer when he cleared up this rumour. He was so careful and open about the concept that maybe it may have been true, but also it wasn't. He shouldn't have to do that. There is a lot to dislike about the WWE. The whole Saudi Arabia thing will always stand out as something of an atrocity, to be quite honest to me. We've just heard a hell of a lot more about the plane ride from hell that we've discussed in the chat. There are legitimate reasons to hate on WWE without listening to some guy telling us Adam Cole was going to be a manager for someone who's barely on TV anyway. If you don't think the guy has an agenda, ask yourself who benefits from this report. There isn't WWE. And also, as an aside, keep your eyes on the journalists who report the rumour killer but make a point of pretending not to know who reported it. Remember how Republicans always say they didn't see a Donald Trump tweet? Same damn thing. Screw those guys. I am watching and I am paying attention to journalists who come out and say, yeah, this wasn't true. Oh, I have no idea who said it, because they are lying to you. Connor says, we do love backstage gossip. We do. Everyone loves it. Connor says, also, Meltzer needs to have a word with his so-called source. He landed himself in a few difficult positions recently. Either, yes, he needs to speak to his sources and see, and maybe stop believing certain ones. Or, as a lot of this information seems to be leaking badly from WWE, maybe just stop doing it. Maybe just stop. I don't know. Bailey says Dave Meltzer's problem is that he shows a bias favourable to AEW and does not report critically on AEW with the same ferocity he does on the faults of WWE. The big sign of that for me is that he actively Wrestling Observer actively spoils a lot of what is coming in the WWE. Don't spoil anything about AEW. And Noob says one of the best examples on Meltzer reports, and that's the Keith Lee absence, and Asuka didn't appear on TV. I get hot. Anyway. Michael says Meltzer spoiled Brody's debut last year, which kind of sucked. Fair. I get what you're saying. I get what you're saying there. To be fair, again, I can't really call that one because the first person to report that Brody Lee was going to AEW 3 days after his WWE release on YouTube. Video's still there. It's the third one I ever published. People forget how much I've actually reported. Connor says, I feel like it is sometimes down to who the report is about and if the wrestler is popular. Also true. Very fair. Very fair. If I was to sit here now and report... fair enough, Michael. That's a fair comment there. If I was to sit here now and say, Jackson Riker fired from the WWE, even if it wasn't true, I would still get the benefit of the doubt because fans want Jackson Riker to be fired by the WWE. So fans would believe it, even if he wrestled on Raw this week. A lot of it is down to that. Like a lot of it. If you're reporting what people want to hear, you will make a living. You genuinely will. There is a lot of people who report clear anti-WWE rhetoric for the pure purpose of trying to appeal to people who hate the WWE. And they can make a living doing that. Meanwhile, I'm sat here trying to be as honest and objective as possible, struggling to make the wages and struggling to make rent. Boss Pedal says, I feel bad for Meltzer because he's the top dog. His work gets the most scrutiny and gets misconstrued 5 times removed. Like a lot of other people are wrong as often, but criticise much less for it. That's a fair comment, Boss Pedal. I completely see where you're coming from there. A lot of other people are wrong quite a lot and don't get called out. I have major questions about the fact that only certain people are wrong and get called out for it. Now, there are certain people who may get a report wrong and are suddenly the devil. The devil. Whereas Meltzer, wrong. I don't know who reported that though. It's fine. With the politest of phrases, fuck off.